Welcome back to 110 Daily on the 110 Sports Network. Josh Doring is here with me. Josh, let's get bold.
Let's do it.
With some NBA predictions last week, we did most intriguing, most pressure, and what was the other one? Most surprising team? Under the radar team. That's right. This week we're doing bold predictions surrounding the NBA season. We're a little bit behind on schedule, so let's hop right into it. Josh, give me your first bold prediction.
Celtics don't have home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs.
Okay. Are we gonna try to defend our bold predictions, or are we just gonna?
I could defend it.
I'm down with it. Go.
Of course, Gordon Hayward is gone. Kemba Walker's got this knee thing he's trying to figure out and get fixed that's been bothering him, so he's out until at least sometime in January, which in a condensed season, not having him for 10 games, 15 games makes a significant difference. Mm-hmm. So then you're looking at Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown as opposed to this quartet that they had last season. We're talking about a duo. Mm-hmm. Still a good team, but I look at the Bucks, the Nets, the Heat, the Raptors, and the 76ers. That's 5 teams right there. Of course, you only need 4 of those teams to finish ahead of you to not have home court in the first round of once we eventually get to 8 teams. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but my philosophy here is bold predictions that actually could happen.
Sure.
That this isn't a long shot. This is a realistic possibility that seems unlikely.
So I have one that plays nicely into that. The Miami Heat will play a top 2 seed in the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs, meaning that they will be a 7 or 8 seed, because and the logic here is quite simply Miami was 5th at 44-29, and Philly was a game behind them. You'd love to think that the Philly's going to be better than 43-30 this year,
right?
And Brooklyn was behind them as well at 35-37. I really like the Heat. But I also think that the Heat, we talked about this during the bubble, the Heat had the perfect team for a bubble-style playoffs. Mm-hmm. They have no issues with external motivation. They got Jimmy Butler. They got all the internal motivation they need. Jimmy Butler was one of the few that was thriving in the bubble, not wishing that his family could be there.
Because it's a business trip. And listen, now if you go 44-29, 44-28 would be 72 games. That probably gets you something better than a 7 seed, but maybe not. I mean, it's close. I mean, if you win one less game, then Philly hops you and you're in 6, and then you got Brooklyn that you think, as long as Kevin Durant at least is healthy, that they're going to win at least 40 games, you would think. And if Kyrie is healthy, I just find it hard to believe that in the regular season, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving can't win 42 of their 72 games. That right there gets you into the 7th seed. Now you've got Indiana, you've got Boston, you've got Toronto, and you've got Milwaukee, but those are teams that recently have all thrived, that all have played well in the regular season, that do a good job overcoming hurdles. Now, there are all 3 of those teams, minus the Milwaukee Bucks, Toronto, Boston, and Indiana, I'm skeptical about in the playoffs this year. But in the regular season, I can see a world in which they perform better than the Heat. So that's I would be, right, like you said, bold prediction that could actually happen. There's a world in which Miami goes 41-31, and in the regular season, which would be slightly worse than last year, but you have an injury or something, Bam tweaks an ankle and is out for 10 games, or Jimmy Butler, tweaks a knee and is out for a couple of games, whoever it might be, and you end up winning a couple less games than you did this year. So in the same vein as yours, Miami has a worse regular season and ends up playing a top 2 seed in the first round. I almost did something very similar to that. That was the other thought I had looking at the East, is I'm
I'm skeptical of Miami's ability to build off of this finals appearance in terms of cementing themselves as one of the best teams in the East, game in, game out, consistently over a regular season. Because I'm right there with you. That bubble was built for Jimmy Butler and that team.
I like the I like the it has nothing to do with how I feel about the Heat. It's not like I dislike the Heat, but this is basically the same team that just went 44-29. And I think
Right.
they'll approach things differently, right? Goran Dragic came off the bench for the majority of the season. I'm
Mm-hmm.
guessing that Kendrick Nunn's not going to sniff the starting lineup, at least at the beginning of this year. So there are reasons to believe they could be better, but there are also reasons to believe that they're roughly the same. And there are two teams behind them in Philly and Brooklyn that are in the realm are in the margin of error in terms of what they've done this offseason and and how much better they could be jumping the Heat, even if they're just pretty much the same in terms of their regular season performance last year.
You ready for my second one?
Do it.
It's not as bold. Maybe you don't think this is bold at all. Maybe at all. Maybe you think this is really bold.
Okay.
But my second bold prediction is that Obi Toppin wins Rookie of the Year.
Okay. Well, I also have a Rookie of the Year bold prediction, so it's
Is yours
completely
bolder?
different from that one.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I'm just going down the list of guys drafted ahead of him. Anthony Edwards is walking into a position where he's not a go-to option on his team. You've got D'Angelo Russell, you got Karl Anthony Towns. So his impact, it's not like he's going to have free reign to do as he pleases on a terrible team. That's just not the situation he's going to. James Wiseman is not winning Rookie of the Year. There are too many other really good players on his team, sort of the same idea.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see about LaMelo. That's a situation where maybe he wins it. He's more of in a position where he's going to have the ball and be able to put up the gaudy numbers. And then you've got these defensive guys, Patrick Williams, Isaac Okoro, Oneko Kongwu in Atlanta, Killian Hayes. I like that pick for the Pistons. I just don't think he's a finished product that's going to come in and be great right away.
Mm-hmm.
You're drafting him because of his potential and his skill set. And then you get to Obi Toppin, who is built to put up offensive numbers.
Sure.
That's just what his skill set lends itself to. That's why the Knicks picked him.
Mm-hmm.
The Knicks need all the help they can get talent-wise. He's going to have every opportunity to be an impact player right away.
Yep.
So just sort of by process of elimination, I don't think it's out of the question at all that Obi Toppin wins Rookie of the Year.
Well, my Rookie of the Year bold prediction is that someone outside of the lottery wins Rookie of the Year.
Ah.
When you look at who wins Rookie of the Year, it's either guys that are going to be all NBA caliber players, or it's guys that are just on good basketball teams. Most specifically, Malcolm Brogdon in 2016-17. Drafted 36, good Bucks team, in a draft that was relatively uninspiring, and with Ben Simmons not playing that season, there just wasn't a whole lot of firepower at the top of the draft. So in that breath, I'm looking at some of these guys that I think will have that I think have a chance to carve out important roles on teams that are going to be good. Off that, I have a couple here: Tyrese Maxey in Philly, Peyton Pritchard. If Kemba Walker struggles with knee injuries again this year, Peyton Pritchard in Boston. I mean, it's Malcolm Brogdon's rookie year numbers were not spectacular. They were just better than everybody else's in that situation that year. I mean, it was 10.2 points, 4.2 assists, and 2.8 rebounds, and he won Rookie of the Year. My point being is that you don't have to have great stats to win Rookie of the Year.
It's really a year-to-year situation, just depending on
right
how things shape. Because you look at last year, and Ja Morant's numbers were phenomenal,
right,
and Zion probably would have won it if he played a full season. But yeah, it's just But this is not that kind of draft class,
right. So I like the Obi Toppin pick. I almost went outside of the top 10 because I think there might be some guys in the back half of the top 10 that could win it. Back half of the top 10, back half of the lottery. but somebody who carves out a role early for a team that's good and people are talking about. It might be one of those seasons where that kind of performance, that kind of season wins Rookie of the Year. I like Toppin too. And part of this is because there are a lot of guys at the top of the draft who are going to teams that have stars or just established NBA players. And that hurts chances. But with that being said, Brogdon went to a team that had Giannis and won Rookie of the Year because of the circumstances that year.
All right.
What's your last bold prediction?
The Warriors are a top 2 seed in the Western Conference.
I'm upset that your last bold prediction also has something to do with the Warriors, but go on.
This is my boldest one. The other two, I'm fairly convinced have a good shot of happening. This one is going out there a little bit, but you and I have talked about this on different platforms before. And to me, it's only bold because of what happened to Klay Thompson. Mm-hmm. If we're talking about a healthy Warriors team, this is not particularly out there. Mm-hmm. But now you're talking about a team without Klay Thompson. It's a little bit different. You've got Steph coming off of a season where he just didn't play. But at the same time, I don't think it's wise to underestimate the chip that this team now has on its shoulder collectively. Draymond Green is not out here. He's not going to let people forget how good this group is. Mm-hmm. These guys have too much pride. They still are champions with that championship mentality, as cliche as it is, to let themselves just be average when you still have the best shooter on the planet, and Draymond, and Andrew Wiggins, and Kelly Oubre, and James Wiseman. Now, they don't have that same 1-2 punch that the Clippers or the Lakers do without Klay, because then you're going. You can debate what the best duo is, but you have the Splash Brothers. That makes you competitive with any team in the NBA when you have this kind of roster built around them.
Yeah.
Part of me just doesn't believe the Lakers are going to take the regular season all that seriously. That's not something LeBron does, and LeBron did it last season because they hadn't got that championship. He was rested from the season before, especially in this condensed season.
We might not see him until... I mean, there's a world in which we don't see him until at least after the new year.
Right, or he plays on Christmas and then another game in there.
Or he's playing
or
18 minutes a game or something like that.
Right, and they're already shutting guys down for the. People are shutting guys down for the preseason, and there's going to be more lax rules about resting guys. This is just your goal is to get to the playoffs. That's how LeBron operates, and specifically this season after really imposing his will on the regular season last year. I think there's every opportunity that they might be able to sneak past the Lakers because they're going to care more about the regular season than the Lakers. And I'm still iffy on the Clippers about being able to be consistent. I'm more iffy about the playoffs and winning a championship, but it's not like they blew anybody away in the regular season either. Mm-hmm. There's a path. And if these guys come out particularly motivated to remind everybody how good they are, I still think there's enough pieces there for them to really make some noise in the West.
I added something to my bold prediction, and that's that Steph Curry wins the league MVP. Because I don't think this happens if Steph Curry's not an MVP caliber player. I don't think the roster's not good enough for Steph to be average in terms of Steph average. So he needs to, like, if Steph doesn't average somewhere between 29 and 31 points a game, I don't think this happens.
Right. It's got to be at least a top 3 finish in MVP voting.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I just went with home court in the first round. Top 2, I debated the idea of my bold prediction being that somebody other than an LA team is the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. Mm-hmm. For the reasons that you just laid out. But I went with home court in the first round But I think Steph has to be an MVP caliber player this season for that to happen, because the fact of the matter is that that roster isn't intimidating. It's just not. When you get past Steph and Draymond, you quickly get to Kelly Oubre Jr. and Andrew Wiggins. Like that's not inspiring no matter how you put it, even though those are guys who put up productive numbers, right? Draymond also has to have a great season. Wiseman needs to click immediately. Oubre needs to, he was 18 points on 35% shooting from the 3-point line last year. That's a solid season from Kelly Oubre Jr. It was one of his best seasons of his career. If he does that again, and adds a little bit more efficiency from beyond the arc, learns how to play in that system a little bit, then we're talking about a team that can finish top 4, especially when you're led by Steph. But it starts with Steph being the league MVP. And this is just a fascinating bit, right? Because we haven't seen Steph without Draymond and Clay, and specifically without Clay or Kevin Durant, in the sense that we haven't seen Steph in a situation where the ceiling of a team completely depends on him. And that's the case this year. And part of me thinks that he's the type of guy who's going to rise to that challenge, at least in the regular season, and the way that he plays lends itself to that, and his, the greenest light of all time. I think that plays into that. So I'm right there with you. I'm maybe not top 2 seed, but home court and Steph being really, really good is probably still a bold prediction, but something I can pretty quickly talk myself into.
Oh, for sure. And yeah, it's built for Steph to have that kind of season because there's nobody to share shots with.
Right.
He's not looking at Andrew Wiggins saying, "Oh, I got to make sure that I treat him the way I treated Clay."
Certainly not.
Now, he's gonna share the ball. Wiggins is gonna get his points. Oubre's gonna get his points. But I completely agree with your sentiment that Steph's gonna look at this thing and go, "This has got to be me. It's got to be Draymond and I. We got to carry this team," which means I got to try and average 30 a game, and I got to be a little bit more aggressive shooting the ball, or a little bit more aggressive just determining what our offense looks like and what happens possession by possession, because I don't have Clay to go bail me out if I have a poor shooting night and rattle off 5 3-pointers in a quarter or something like that.
Yeah.
It's got to be a less balanced attack in a weird way, if that makes sense.
I think that does make sense. But yeah, bold predictions. We like it. Coming up next, we're going to do Humor Me Please, and then we'll bring Chris Brown on at the top of the second hour. You're watching 110 Daily on the 110 Sports Network.